Hello, 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 hello. How are you guys? Can everybody hear me and see me? Hello. Can you guys hear me well? Can you guys hear me? Okay, okay. I'm waiting for my friends to also join the live. So we will be doing, and we'll see how it goes because we kind of, we were just chatting with each other on this topic. It's a good friend of mine, amazing guy. And we were talking between each other because we both are students of Kabbalah. We were talking a lot about, LTH, some other angels, some other entities, and we were like, we gotta share this with others. So I'm just waiting for you to come live and to join my live. So hopefully everything works. Hello, hello, hello. And we'll see how this goes. I hope I'll post it and we'll have hopefully more conversations like this, because we were actually researching some of these energies, and we found so much interesting stuff which I didn't hear no one talk about on YouTube. And he's very good. He's a native English speaker. I guess that helps too. So he's very, very educated on this topic. He studies Kabbalah. He studies different, besides even Kabbalah, different mystical sources. So he's really good. Actually, here is he, just waiting to send a request. And okay, go live. Oh, this before. So yeah, let's just see if everything works. I'm doing it for the first time ever. Hi, I'm so happy to see you. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yes. So this is my friend. His name is Giovanni. He has also his own YouTube channel. He studies Kabbalah as well. He's an amazing guy, and I hope today we will discuss some interesting stuff. We know each other for a while. How long ago?
Oh, long time, couple
like
years.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah, like 5 years.
Yeah. He lives
Time
in New
flew
York.
by.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm so excited for today's conversation. And just tell us a little bit about you, because you study Kabbalah also for a while, right?
Yeah. So basically, I think I studied Kabbalah since I was probably like 18 or something, and I'm 33.
Oh wow, longer than me, much longer.
But not like intensely from when I was 18. It was more like I came across a lot of the Kabbalah stuff, and I think basically what happened was it was very shocking, a lot of the stuff that I was reading in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my family is from Jamaica, and my grandmother's family are Sephardic Jews from, originally from Spain and Portugal. And I wanted to know more about my Jewish heritage, but my grandmother did a lot of mystical things, so like I wanted to know where those things came from.
Uh-huh.
And so I went to like a rabbi, and he was like, no, we don't believe in magic. And Kabbalah is not for people unless they're like old or whatever,
Common
And
misconceptions, yeah.
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 So I had the interest, and I was always Googling about it and buying books. So that's why I say, from that time, I didn't realize the stuff I was reading was stuff that most Jews weren't familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
And so I found Kabbalah teachers, and then I think I really seriously started to study it when I went to the Kabbalah Center. Because obviously it's more out in the open. There's projectors, screens, all that sort of stuff of classes. So yeah, I understand it more so now, I think, within the last 2 years.
Oh yeah. I think last 2 years were intense. For me, actually, it's like my parents are both non-religious. I'm only from my mother's side, okay, to Judaism. But for me, I think also it's something that when I just came across it, it was like, wow, I gotta study this. You know how it is. You get really connected, and you get fascinated with that. And you do tarot too, right? You have channel with that, yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do tarot. Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
mostly, huh?
No, go ahead. I'm
Oh,
listening.
yeah. So my first tarot was with Angel Tarot, and the reason why is because I had as a kid I could see certain stuff, and I was saved by angels, to make a long story short. So I went into the angel tarot thing. And because I actually thought that the regular tarot was scary because of the death card.
But you are a Scorpio, by the way. Am I correct? You are a Scorpio.
Yeah.
I'm Scorpio rising, but yeah, that's funny.
And that's obviously a card that we get like all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so eventually I found out that tarot was Kabbalistic, and I went back into tarot. That's pretty much what happened. And yeah, so I love tarot. I actually have all sorts of tarot cards, and I collect even tarot cards that I don't even use.
It's all of us, I think. Like many people would agree, right?
Yeah.
Collectors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So anyway, I'm so happy to have you here today. We were chatting so much these few days. You went live on your account, also shared some amazing information, which I was like, where does he know all this from? Like, wow, that's why, you're here. I really want to share some of the amazing things that you know and that I've learned from you actually with my followers as well. And today specifically, I guess we will focus on something that's very popular in New Age community these days, which is LLTH. It is an interesting figure. I think that's very popular now. And I think, in my opinion, there is a lot of misconceptions about her origins. And I hope that's something we'll be able to talk more about today. You'll share something that you know. So,
right.
What are some of the things that, you came across your research about LLTH? First of all, I guess, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I guess let's just explain as well, why don't we pronounce names of some, not just LTH, but even other entities? Why is that?
Yeah. So from what I understand is that there's too much energy associated with certain names. And so we don't say it because we don't want to misuse or misdirect that energy. And you could be invoking something or evoking, and depending on what it is, there could be possession of, your aura, all sorts of stuff. And so, to kind of like make a long story short, we just like say, I think even for God's names, we say like, instead of, for educational purposes, I'll say Elohim, but we say Elohim just to not like, take it in vain. But nothing bad will happen if you say Elohim, because it depends on the context. It can mean judge and so on and so forth. But I think with Miss L now, Lilith, she has a very strong negative energy, and it's beyond negative, really, in pretty much the ancient sources. And so yeah, is there anything else you want me to say about that?
Yeah, just let's, I guess, talk about the origins, because a lot of people who argue with me online, you know how it goes, they tell me about how she came from Christianity, that Christianity and the church basically said all these bad things about her, that patriarchy is to blame, which I agree, patriarchy, is not the always, playing the most positive role, right, in humanity. However, I think all of these things are not true about her origins. And what's like, I guess if you can share about what are the first what is the first places where she's
basically she comes up only in Jewish texts. She doesn't come up in Christian texts that I know of, because the thing is that she became well known through the History Channel recently. I want to say like when I was a teenager or something like that, the History Channel had like this special, and they were like, why did the church fathers and whatever not tell us about this? And they always had to go to Jewish sources, which is pretty much like the Zohar, Ben Sira, and the Talmud, and so many other things that, are not even translated in English to this day.
Exactly.
And so it's interesting that a lot of the people are blaming, Christianity when Christianity had nothing to do, because Christianity, the official Catholic Church started 4 centuries after Jesus died. So, prior to that, you had a group of, people who followed the rabbi named Jesus, Yeshu in Hebrew. And so you have a missing gap and then the church fathers, I think there's a council called Nicaea where they like kind of just put together what they wanted to believe. And then from there, you know, it's a whole evolutionary process of understanding of everything. So if you want to know, like, you know, who Miss L is, you would have to actually read all the Judaic sources. That's the only place you're going to find them. And I think, yeah, that's all I'll say for now. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that it's interesting to me that like I understand when something progresses or there's constantly new sources on everything that's being added, right? But I think it's important to go back to the original source, even if you are like I don't want anyone to convert to any belief system. Absolutely, that's not what I'm trying to say.
No,
But I
definitely
think
not.
we need to see the root, right, where it came from, at least for the curiosity's sake.
Yeah.
If I'm, you know, I hope people agree, or I don't know. What do you guys think? So
yeah, if you guys have any questions about that, definitely please let us know. Because people don't do research today. They sort of just like listen to like what people say, and they're just like, oh yeah, like someone on YouTube said it, you know, and all of a
exactly,
sudden
yeah.
you know?
And I think, you know, I think it's of course it's a problem, but it's also an opportunity to also start transforming that a little bit. Because for example, when people started arguing with me and I was like, why you guys, this is considered in, you know, in my how to say it, like in what I practice is considered highly negative entity, and they would all send me like videos of these YouTubers, and I'm like, okay, great, but what is their source, where they got this originally from? And no one could actually tell me where they got it from. They just like, oh no, that's what this person said or what that person said. So fact checking kind of like, or deeper research is something that's not happening. People just kind of, you know, just tell you, oh no, that's what I believe, or that what I believe, which is fine. But I just think still for the purposes of like research, we need to go and actually look at some of the stuff, you know, at least for the purpose of, you know, curiosity, if anything. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
So
Yeah. Someone did mention something about Sambian Mandean texts, and this is the other problem with those texts also, is that it's a Johnny come lately situation. So, you know, for instance, I don't go to anything that like came way after. The thing is, Gnosticism started with you know, a whole different like set of people that's no longer around today. It's like a mystery school, for instance. And that was outside of the Judeo, you know, background, but there were Jews who became you would say Jewish Gnostics. And then Christianity was born out of Judaism. So then most of Gnosticism today is Christian. So, you know, we have Christian Gnosticism. And a lot of the stuff that's really out there is taken out of context, you know, today, because most people actually are not initiated into Gnosticism. Yeah.
I really agree with what you just said. Let's talk about some of the things where, okay, so what do our sources say about LLTH? I know you mentioned that other night something about being even the first vampire, and actually, what was it in that Netflix series? Let's talk about that a little bit.
So vampire, this is really interesting. So Vampire Diaries, you know, someone is saying that they're Mandean, Sabian. Okay. So yeah, okay, so I'll get back to that. The interesting thing is that Vampire Diaries mentioned that Miss L, they have a different Bible that's different from the human Bible. And in their Bible, she is the first person, which is like, you know, what we understand to be Adam's wife, so to speak, right? Before Hava, which is Eve, is created. But the interesting thing about that is I didn't know she was a vampire until watching Vampire Diaries. I actually went on Google and found in all Judaic sources that mentions she's a vampire, and also a what's the other thing called again when you can switch into anything that you want?
Shapeshifter, something like that. Shapeshifter. Okay, interesting.
And so that was shocking to me, because like, you know, I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, okay, so, you know, vampires goes back to ancient Mesopotamia, Judea, China, India, everything. And I'm like looking at this and I'm like, so obviously vampires are real because like you don't hear about them anymore until after something in the 1800s. And not to mention you had, families that used to chase after vampires, women and men who were attacking them, right? Now, I'm not saying all vampires are bad and all the descendants or whatever. That's like a whole other, like story. But the fact is that, why would you want to connect to the mother of vampires? And
It says kind of like that she's the mother of demons, right? I don't know if they use vampire exactly, but something of in the Jewish sources, she's the mother of demons. So
yes, she's the mother of demons. She's the queen of demons also, and there are 4 queens of the demons, and she is the primary queen of all of them. And her husband is actually Mr. Samael, and he is worse than Satan. Just so that
explain why. Yeah.
Okay, so the reason why is because Satan, according to Judaism, now we have to remember, we have to like use logic here. Let's pretend that Christianity doesn't exist, right? Because before Christianity, remember, Christianity is a baby, it's new. Before Christianity, we had Judaism. And even before Judaism, we had the nation of Israel, which is not the geographical location, but it's an actual set of people, right? And so the way that they understood this, because that goes all the way back to Abraham, which is back to Babylon, right? Because that's where our ancestor came from, was Chaldea. So we're also Babylonians, even though, we separated and became Israel. So the interesting thing is that our understanding of Satan is that he's an agent for God. He's the prosecuting attorney, basically.
Like not a judge, but yeah, like a persecuting attorney. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is before Christianity came and said, Satan is like the ruler of the world and, all this other stuff. So it's a different, it changes like the whole story now that we understand that Satan works for God. And at the end of the day, God has the final say, so he's really just looking at our sins and saying, well, what about this? Because this is what happened and so on and so forth. And it says God does everything in his power to actually remove that. But I mean, that's like a whole other, story.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. There's a lot going on. But then SML, right, is completely different thing too. Because I was actually also, I got confused. I was like, is LTH the wife of Satan? That's what I got all confused. Right. But then I was like, no, it does make sense. So yeah,
because sometimes SMAL, he does get confused with Satan sometimes. But what's interesting is that the text will say that Mr. S, who is the prince of the demons, he is actually a doppelganger of Adam. So,
because Genesis was also complicated.
Right. Because we're talking about the beginning before there was any religion. This is just a the interesting thing about Judaism is that it's universal, and most people don't know that today because we've been like sort of like pushed aside, and
I think there was just a lot of separation because there were different ideas, and how it goes, like this idea
politics,
is better or whatever. This one is not. So I think honestly what helps, like, to not even get sidetracked, but I think what's helping me often is to, first of all, using logic, sometimes just researching, not being like, oh, okay, like, let's just run with the easiest thing, but researching different cultures, researching different religions, different viewpoints. However, also, like, let's say if we talk about LTH, why would I look at some pop culture about her when I need to look at the original source? Or let's say if I'm researching some, I don't know, deity that comes from Hinduism, I need to look at Hinduism as an original source. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just about that, it's about everything. And then sure, 100. It can evolve, but like, if we don't understand the original source and what it says, then it's sort of like easy to be misled, I think. So having said all that, All right. So, what do though the sort like you just sent me actually? Let me see the phone. You just sent me the article like literally right before we started. Right, something new you also found on what original sources say about LTH specifically, because many people are trying to understand who is she? Is she the divine feminine? Many people tell me how she's absolutely the goddess, right? And you know she's empowering women. That's right where the fascination comes from. But what do
Right.
actually most of the sources say about her? Let's start, I guess, with her first. What do they say about her? And then we'll move what divine feminine also alternatives are and what are some other misconceptions perhaps.
Oh, sorry. You said you wanted to know what does the Kabbalah say about Miss L?
About Miss L, yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then we
Yeah.
can also maybe look at divine feminine, also maybe other aspects like Shekinah, looking at what we just talked about, the moon, you know, like other figures, angels. Because there is something
Right.
also very interesting about the moon we were just discussing, but you know, it's a lot.
Yes.
It's like it's
Yeah.
a lot of different things. They are kind of connected, but at
Yeah.
the same time, it's a lot from deeper. Like we can talk, you know, a while about
Yeah.
everything to connect it.
It's very interesting. So, for instance, this is the book of the Zohar, and so this is the primary text that I go by, because
Mm-hmm.
this is like goes back 2,000 years ago to the Galilee area, and but the information that's in here, you know, goes way back because the thing is that when we were being under attack by the Romans, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he actually compiled, you know, the stuff in a book and
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and to keep it safe. So it's not 2,000 years old, but the actual written down part of it altogether, because a lot of this stuff was like secret stuff. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um, but there's older stuff than this that talks about it too. So I don't know if I have the book with me here. I think it's in my bedroom. It's called the Sefer Hamelech, which is like the book of Raziel. And Sefer Raziel Hamelech, that's the book that was given to Adam. So that is for all of us because we all come from Adam, and or prototype Adam, whatever you want to call it. So the interesting thing is that there were medallions that were made to actually fight Lilith, to actually fight Miss L, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is that the Zohar shows that she attacks children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, she takes out her vengeance on children, and so that's why there was like people would put red strings. They would say certain incantations on the red strings, and that would actually prevent it from happening. That's why throughout like Latin America and many places, that origin of the red string that protects you from evil eye that people wear on the wrist, a lot of this goes back to ancient Judea. And don't forget, there are like lost tribes, all that stuff, and it went into many other cultures. And so a lot of these people don't even know why they're doing that. But the oldest understanding of it really goes back to the Israelites. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, there even people, you know, I don't want to get into it right now, but so the
I
thing
didn't
is
know
that,
actually that the red string was and the incantation, like there's a prayer, right, that we read usually when we
right,
tie the red string. I had no idea actually that it was supposed to be protecting from a missile. I knew like about protect from evil eye, all of that, but I didn't know
right.
that it had anything to do with her. Like, wow.
Yeah, it because the thing there, the prayer that we say called Ana Bakoach, it like
Hmm.
it pulls in all the different angels and all the different planets in the cosmos and the creator, from the divine part of the creator of the feminine and the masculine, just to like knock out all those evil decrees that comes from, you know, the queen of demons, you know, and so many other things that goes along with it, you know.
Hmm.
And so, you know, if you have people, and this is women, because we had women Kabbalists, right? There's a book
Hmm.
here.
There is actually a lot of very empowered women, not some kind of repressed women. So it's
Right, they weren't
weird, right?
repressed.
Because and I think like it's one for me. What's interesting is that one thing is like there is people who don't even know that Missel comes from
Yeah,
Judaic sources. They don't know because you know they got it from pop
right,
culture. That's one thing.
exactly.
But what's the weirdest part for me was that there is actually a lot of Jewish people also who like follow Missel because she is a feminist hero, and I think that it's
Yeah.
very incorrect. Like, I don't know how
Yeah.
it happened. To be honest, I have my theory. This is not from any book, but in my opinion, what I channeled as well about this was that, you know, whenever the negative side, and I think Michelle is very manipulative, very charismatic, has potential to
Right.
really know how to charm, right? It's something that I think in the Zohar also said that they had, like, I don't know if it's Zohar or was a different book where it said that they had this ability to charm. And I think that because women were rising recently, but also women had a lot of pain points, a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
Negative side knows how to manipulate that kind of stuff and insert itself there. So I really think that it's kind of, you know, it's a combination of factors. It's not just one thing. There was
Oh, yeah.
manipulation, there was lack of research, lack of fact checking. Most people, once again, don't know where it's even coming from. That kind of contributed to this being there. But once again, it's like in my research, I couldn't find anything positive about it. And I guess what's one of the feminist arguments for her is also that, you know, she was originally first wife, but she was rejected woman because she wouldn't submit, right, to Adam.
Yes.
Which,
Yeah.
is there somewhere in Jewish sources where it says that?
Yeah, so I actually believe that's in the Talmud.
In the
And
Talmud, okay.
yeah, hold on.
Yeah. So anyway, there is a lot. As you can see, it's not as simple, but we, you know, we started the conversation.
Yeah, apparently that's in the Talmud, and the problem with the Talmud is that,
And this is golden words.
yeah.
Go ahead, say it.
The problem with the Talmud is that it's a book of conversation and arguments and debate, you know, and so
Exactly.
a lot of people will, you know,
Exactly.
a lot of non-Jewish people will look at the Talmud and they'll take it out and they'll say, this is what the Jews believe, you know, like, you know, blah,
And
blah,
it's
blah.
not,
And
because
it's
what
not,
Talmud
you know?
is like for religious people, for people who study like yeshivas, right? If I'm not
Right.
incorrect, what they do is they sit there and they literally debate student with students. What does this portion of the Torah represents? What is this text saying? What is this meant? And it's like a debate, because there's many different ways how to look at certain passages of sacred text.
Right.
So there is a debate. But just because something is said there, it doesn't mean that that's what actually happened. It's not the actual.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Right? Because it's
100%. 100%.
So
yeah.
it's only was an opinion of someone, which could be
Yeah.
debated. But what
Right.
people who are non-Jewish and in popular culture did, they taken out that, I think, passage from Talmud, and they've been like, look, this is what Judaism says. This is what Torah says, but it's not correct. So. So yeah, like, I'm glad we addressed that. And, you know, once again, one of the issues is always things being taken out of the context. So it needs to be looked at the broader context. Like, I don't have a formal university education on that. However, I did study sacred texts at the university. We didn't discuss Misel there. Don't remember about that. We did go deep into some of the Torah and some other things. But yeah, it's something that actually requires a lot of time and a lot of different sources to fully study. And what about, I mean, I guess.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention though, because you said in the Kabbalah, you know, she's also the cause of diseases.
She's the cause of diseases. Exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
almost forgot too. Yeah.
And the thing is that there's a portion of the so this is actually, the Zohar is really one book, but because of English and commentary and whatever, this is like, I think about 23 volumes, right? It's really 22.
Yeah.
The 23rd is an index. And so Pincus comes up in 2 volumes. So I think this is part B.
Let's explain what Pincus is for people who don't know. It's a healing portion.
It's the healing portion of the Torah. So the Torah is the first 5 books of Moses: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, that whole thing, just in case you guys get confused. And so the Zohar decodes the book of Moses, and not just the book of Moses, but the whole Hebrew Bible, which is called the Tanakh, right? So we don't take the Torah literally, because if you take the Torah literally, it becomes a book of death and not a book of life. And so there's a
Exactly.
lot of codes that are in there, and this is actually a decoder, but even this itself is somewhat coded. So it takes a
It is
while for it
coded,
to
I
unlock
would
itself.
say.
Yeah.
It's very coded still.
Yeah, yeah. And
Plus,
there's
okay,
reasons for that.
translation.
Right.
Translation is another level of
So,
decoding.
but the soul apparently, you know, because we've reincarnated so many times and whatever, you know, this is the wisdom of heaven, and so the soul kind of knows this. When you read this, you end up having so many dreams and
Hmm.
whatever. But the most important part that you should know about Pincus, if anyone's familiar with the English Bible, his name is really Phineas in English. And in Hebrew, it's Pincus. I didn't even realize that until like,
I
I
didn't
think
know
a
that.
year ago. Yeah. Because I was talking to this guy who was like very Christian and knows the Bible from like left to right. He's like, I've never heard of Pincus. And I'm like, it's in the book of Moses. And then after a while, I realized we're talking about a guy named Phineas in English.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
so thanks for Wikipedia. But the interesting thing is that in the book of Pincus now, people use this for healing. A lot of miracles happen when they use this part of the Zohar. It's been known to eradicate people who had cancer. There are stories of people in Africa who claim that they had sickle cell, and just, you know, like reading this every day and meditating with it, it wiped out their disease, right? And so the thing is that when it does the healing, there's a special part in Pincus that really helps you to like clean out all of those areas that are blockages. And it fights Miss L and her husband, the Prince
So,
of Hell,
so I
you
would
know?
say that not only, you know, it's not just like, oh, she's just this negative entity or whatever, but she's actually responsible for illness, for a lot of
Yeah,
like her energy is energy of illness, energy of destruction. So once
right,
again, it's to me strange that that's part is people not aware of that at all.
right.
And yeah, and it says clearly in the Zohar when, yeah, I know which portion you're speaking about. I don't have the book with me here, but it's I think
Yeah,
I have a screenshot or something where it talks about, you know, her and her also husband, which is this other entity, and how we
right,
can actually protect ourselves from that energy to also remove disease. And it's
right.
something, once again, people don't know. And I guess the reason why I get, you know, so
Oh,
uh,
there it
passionate
is.
about it, because I'm like, you know, like I really don't want anyone to hurt themselves. I guess like deep down, if I was to ask myself why I care also so much, is that I don't
Right.
want people to be hurt. And of course, misinformation is always frustrating. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's she is very connected to disease, and besides, I don't think it's, you know, I know that part about children, but also for anyone, I think it's that.
right.
So we don't say names. Somebody's asking, can you guys spell the names, please? We don't say their names because we described this in the beginning. When we say certain names, not just Misael, LLTH, but even there's other negative angels, negative entities, or even names of God. There's names of God that also have energy that's way too strong to say it out loud, because we don't want to basically, how to say this, we don't want to unconsciously misdirect that energy, because it's very, very strong, powerful energy. And I think actually one of my
Right.
teachers some time ago said something, that some of these names invoke energy of harsh judgment to the world, which is, you
Yeah.
know, force of destruction. So we don't want that. It's not necessarily you said it, once again, don't go crazy, not necessarily you said it, that's a destruction happens, don't be scared.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we don't want to take a chance, basically. Yeah,
I
because once
actually,
again, names have power. So some of these
right.
names, they are very special, combination of letters and different things. So yeah,
So
basically,
I couldn't
oof.
find the exact portion. I'm gonna start like highlighting this stuff. But
We
I couldn't find the exact portion that I sent to you, but I know you had it on screenshot and put it on
which
your,
one?
I think
Is it
it's
from
the one
Zohar?
where, yeah, that one. If you see the page on there, let me know. But I would like to just like kind of just like zoom in to this like section right here in I think it's called sight, hearing, smell, and speech.
I'm
And this
looking for
talks
it.
about, okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of bring this in. So it says, Moses says that in the future, God will remove all of Miss L's children from the world, but not so the children of the Shekinah, right? So the Shekinah are, so the thing is that we are in the time of the rise of the divine feminine, and we're going to go into that later, because there is a queen, the queen of heaven. And then also Miss L is literally the queen of hell, right? So the thing is that who would you rather connect with, the queen of heaven or the queen of hell? And so what's interesting about this is that it mentions that, you know, Miss L, she's the wicked female angel who possesses no humility. And she's the mother of all nefarious people who abhor spirituality and propagate only evil in this world. And it says, these are the mixed multitude, and you'll know them by their actions, for they speak evil about those who share and decimate the wisdom and light of this sacred book. And it says that here, Miss L and her offspring are banished from this world, and their reign of terror is ended. And it says the light of Kabbalah is now free to flourish the world over, bringing peace and harmony to civilization, as quickly as the light of a bulb expels darkness from a room. So what this is interesting is that this book was not meant to really be sort of like given out for the masses of the world until we reach the age of Aquarius. And now this makes even more sense, because now we have the rise of a dark goddess of hell claiming people to kind of like join the army, you know, for getting into an apocalypse, you know? And so, I mean, we don't use the term apocalypse, but it's pretty much a showdown is what we're seeing in the world happening right now. And so now you understand, because I mean, this whole idea about Miss L didn't start happening until like 2-3 years ago. Right.
I don't know how long it's been. Like, I think, in my opinion, I could be wrong. If you guys think something else or have different information, let me know. Because I think, and I was mind blown by that. I think it's about past 3 or 4 years, which, by the way, is the time of Saturn and Capricorn, which is, you know, something you and I discussed, where Saturn, one of its symbols in more of like of other schools of astrology is this Kronos, right, who is his child and stuff. And I find it weird that Miss L started getting so glamorized and advertised during the dominion. Like, you know, Saturn is very strong. Energy of Saturn is strong in the world. There's restriction. People are not really free, at least in the, you know, like 3D level, to do what they want and stuff. And I find it interesting. This all coincides as well with this trend of let's embrace darkness. Like, I have people who write to me in my pages how I am negative for telling people about the light, that I should, as a woman, embrace my darkness. And I mean, I'm a Scorpio, so, you know, I love black color. Like, how much more darkness do you need, right? So, but they say something like, oh, we have to, like, as women, connect and worship darkness and stuff like that. And I'm just always sitting there and I'm like, help.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
It's funny. My cousin says, his name is Evan. He says, I saw a great play title, Elle, in 2008 that affected him a lot.
Oh,
so
okay. I just saw this comment too. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But I think it's like, it's really past few years where it's been just huge. I don't know, probably it was before as well, but it's like, it's so out in the open, I think, from more recent times. Interesting, because actually there's a concept, right, about how whenever the light, right, is very strong, there is also just as powerful source that opposes that. So because we live still in the world of duality. So I think it's very interesting, just as when there is so much powerful light being revealed, darkness also it's like, it's very strong right now. Like, I'm like, wow.
It's super strong.
But by the way, some women go ahead, sorry, I just always talk a lot.
No, you go, because I can say that later, actually.
I always, you know, like, I have a lot of Gemini placements. For me, is like, you know, to limit my words is, you know, is a challenge. I want to make sure you speak as much, because you know, honestly, more about that than me. Absolutely. Like, you do, seriously. I give credit where it's due, totally. I was gonna say, like, a lot of women were arguing with me saying how women are not light, they are darkness, because the moon is darkness and the womb is darkness.
Yeah.
What do we know about the moon in Kabbalah? It's a luminary, and we talked, you and I, just now, right, about this as well, how there is lots about that people don't know about the moon. There's a moon and the sun, right? It's two luminaries. You were actually telling me how, right, and I knew this, I read about this before too, how moon was supposed to first be, right, as strong as the sun. Both luminaries were like equal in their light. So moon, first of all, it's not darkness, it's light as well. However, what happens was that moon was degraded or something by God, right? That
yeah.
Why was that again? Can you explain that? Because I always get lost with that story too.
Right. Okay, so this is interesting. If you guys would like to, you can get this book. It's called The Encyclopedia of Jewish Myth, Magic, and Mysticism, and it's written by a rabbi named Jeffrey W. Dennis. And for the most part, he has most things right, you know, but you always want to do more research.
Exactly.
And it's good to actually, you know, get a source that's written by a rabbi or a Jewish scholar, someone that knows the actual tradition, versus like, some book that's just written by like someone who is going by his feelings, you know what I mean? So,
exactly, because our feelings, I listen to my feelings, I channel a lot, but I never go and be like, oh, my feeling is the truth, that's it. I'm like, okay, I feel this way, let's go back and see what other sources say about that. That's the way to protect yourself, guys, because a lot of you were also on my channel. I know you guys were asking me, how do we know that we don't connect with all these negative things that are hiding in the new age or whatever? Exactly that way. The problem with new age, very little research, a lot of opinions, no healthy way of having this discussion. Like, for example, we having discussion, and even like in that Talmud book that everyone refers to, right, on the Miss L story, those people are constantly, they're taught how to like argue with each other, but in a constructive way, like prove their argument, prove their point. What's happening when I try to, let's say, debate something with YouTubers, or on my even comments page, there's aggression. No, you are incorrect, you don't know your shit, like that kind of stuff. So we need to like learn how to have this kind of conversations where, okay, let's look at sources. What does this say? What does that say? And be open to listen to each other and research things, because if we just go by our feelings, by what we feel, one day we could be correct. Another day, there could be forces could manipulate us very easily. And I'm not scaring, I'm not bringing fear, but we need to be aware, we need to be smart. You said something, right? Also how, sure, everyone right now wants to, like, we don't need religion much anymore. Religion as a middleman in the age of Aquarius will go away. So everyone looking to connect with their soul, with their heart. However, be smart as well, like, exactly, right? So, wow.
100%. Because the thing is that the moon now, there is a midrash, and like, a midrash is basically like, kind of like a deeper understanding of certain things. And so what this is showing to us in this ancient text, according to what's written here, that it's the moon actually began as a celestial luminary equal to the sun in the very beginning. But then it says God reduced it to a lesser light because of its arrogance. And God did, however, compensate it for the loss by giving the moon a greater role in human affairs. And it says, thus, the moon is crucial in determining the Jewish calendar, because the oldest calendars seem to be, with the constellation of the moon and not the sun.
And even now, everything is based around the moon cycle too, like all of the holidays, all the different things, connection
and
days.
You'll see the same thing like in ancient Babylon, that that's what they were using, was the moon. We see it in Judaism, and also I think in Islam, which is why it has the moon crest that's on there.
The crest of the moon, exactly.
Right. So the interesting thing about the moon is that it was treated as an actual conscious being, and when we left Egypt, that was the first mitzvah, they say, which is a mitzvah is like a good deed. Commandment is really a corruption of the word, because the mitzvah is actually It's like it connects to something called Safta, which is like community connection. So we're connecting when we do certain things. And in reality, there was never 10 commandments. It's really the 10 utterances of life.
10 utterances, exactly. Yes.
And
correct.
so each, connection that we do that's actually a statement, it pulls us into like higher states of consciousness, right? So what's interesting is that first mitzvah was to sanctify the moon. So every new moon, in the Jews up to this day, no matter if they're Reform, conservative, whatever, they bless the new moon.
Exactly.
And they take from that new moon and the blessing, all of the prosperity that they need for the month, to like kind of like lessen the negative aspect that could be decreeing in the stars, so that we can have like just like a better situation in every area of our life. And that's all thanks to the way how God set up the moon. So the moon,
so he gave her
Yes,
sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
I was just going to say, so the moon to us is not negative. It's feminine. It's levana. That's what it means in Hebrew. And we love the moon because the light of the moon is very powerful for us to get rid of even demons, believe it or
like
not.
Misael. So it's like, I think it's a big misconception to look at the moon as some kind of darkness, because it's not. It's a luminary. And it also says that actually, even though her light was reduced, but she was given like this extra, not a job, but how to say, like this role, right? In human affairs, right? That's what it says. But in the times of like, of the new age, or like the messianic times, she will become as powerful as the sun. So that's something that will happen. Her light, like there will be these two luminaries, the sun that shines bright and the moon that shines bright as equally, not reduced anymore. So we're hopefully very close to this.
Apparently that's like, in the age of Aquarius, and so what's interesting about that is that we've been in the age of Aquarius for some time now in the Hebrew calendar, but now on the Gregorian calendar, we're going into the age of Aquarius December 21st, 2020, right? And, that is a very cosmic messianic consciousness is really strong.
I agree.
So the moon is, going to be equal more than ever before. And I think what's interesting about that is the moon represents the women, which explains why women will be extra powerful now than ever before as well.
Exactly. So I do think that it's not a coincidence that women, of course, are like rising in their power. And I think that because a lot of women want to have this strong light right now, want to be independent, not starting to understand how they're no longer just, reflection of man or dependent on man, like all these feminist concepts, if there's nothing wrong with it. However, I think that what's happening is that a lot of this looking for such role model, or looking for this, once again, goddess, kind of like, once again, goes back to Miss L, because they like this rebellious side, I guess, of her. I don't know, like, honestly, I don't have an answer on why. People were asking me today why everyone is worshiping dark entities. Honestly, guys, I wish I could just tell you that. I can only give you like my opinions, what I feel. But I think it's, in my opinion, once again, since we're discussing, I think that, yes, the rise of the feminine is absolutely happening. There is no, we're not denying that by any means. However, because, dark energy is smart. It's very smart. It's not stupid. It's very intelligent. It knows exactly where the opportunity is, where the most light is revealed. This is also where there's more darkness. It's a law. So whenever there's a lot of light starting being revealed somewhere, darkness wants to come and steal that energy, misdirect this energy, because it's its job, right? So what's happening, since women are rising so much in power in their light, I think that there is dark forces and negative agendas that are coming in and trying to misdirect women to look for their goddess, to look for, what to aspire to be like in the wrong place. I do believe, once again, every single source I myself have read in the Zohar, in the first books where she was mentioned, is very negative. Like, I couldn't find much positive
anything positive.
Exactly. So
I had the same issue.
So like, we tried, by the way, we really tried. We were like, but maybe there's something, right? but no, we couldn't really. And these sources predate everything. Like, I mean, maybe not like completely ever, like, I don't know about other traditions, but what people are referring to in terms of Christianity and other stuff, these sources predate that. So once again, I don't know where people got that there was something in Christianity said about her, that there was some priest that said she was a bad fallen woman, because it's not what, right?
I mean, there is something in the Nag Hammadi text that says something that seems sort of favorable about her, but it's not really so clear. And not all the Nag Hammadi texts are really, coherently like, equal with each other. And like I said, a lot of these people are not initiated, so they don't know the full story. But there is a danger in some of the stuff that's taken out of the context, and I think there's a lot of like truth inside Gnosticism, but there's also some stuff that came from very, I would say, dark people back then that's no longer around to really like talk for themselves. And but what I do know is that there is this argument that the Sumerian stuff is it's the same stories that you see within the ancient Hebrew Bible. And so some people would look at those and want to follow that more, but it still doesn't say anything positive about who they consider Miss L to be in Samaria, because they have very similar stories about each other.
Also negative,
both,
like it.
Right. They're both like taking the lives of babies and harming them and, stuff like that. And back then they had their own medallions to get rid of her, so I mean,
So there's protection, right? Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. There's always protection from Miss L. And she can't.
And I think
really...
that, if she was such a positive entity, they would not be creating seals and different, what is that, other thing.
Especially if we have to call on other female entities to get rid of Miss L too. I mean, so is this like, this is like a goddess cat fight going on, If you're
I mean, in the Zohar, it does mention not just her, but there's other demons as well, which I don't see trending. Hopefully they will not be trending either in the future. But this one is like a pop culture queen. Interesting. And what I noticed, and of course it's something like a lot of these things also a little bit of my opinion too, but what I've noticed with women who I had conversation with and who really connect to Miss L is one thing that they had in common. They all came from some kind of anger. Like they had this anger either towards men, or they had this anger either towards women being repressed, or there was anger towards religion. Like a few people I know who are really like idolize Miss L, they had very negative experiences in church or in whatever religious institution they were part of. So it's really what I noticed, the source of people who connect to her is mainly anger and feeling very disempowered and looking to empower themselves. But there's something we know, and it's a Kabbalistic concept. Maybe I will oversimplify that now, but I don't know how to explain it else. But I think even in New Age and even in basic law of attraction, they know the same thing. Whenever we connect with anything or create from lack, right? It creates more of that. Yes. So when you come from anger, when you come from, really wanting to prove something different, maybe even, or like whenever it comes from this, like being disconnected from the light, it kind of creates more of the same thing. So like, that's what I don't know. And of course, it's just, that's more of my opinion on observation and more, if anything. And that's something I noticed. And even whenever I try to introduce them, I'm like, guys, do you know where she first mentioned? Do you know what is said about her? They send me comments like this long, how, you're not a woman, you're against women, she was amazing, and they have hurt her. And I'm just like, chill out, let's just have a conversation, because they take it very personally. And it's like, it's interesting, because I think that within, even like if to just speak about Kabbalah, I don't know about Christianity, because I'm not really educated in their religion, but there's so many women who are empowered matriarchs, who are like, there is divine feminine aspect of creator as well. Like, so it's not like we don't have anything feminine. It's not like we just have a bunch of dudes. Like, it's not correct impression. There is so much divine feminine.
Right.
you know, in these ancient sources as well. So it's not like they just
Right.
wanted to punish all women and they wanted to reject all women. This is why they, you know, have all this negativity to say about Misal. It's actually not correct. There is a
Right.
lot of women who are highly praised, highly talked about, and even within the creator, there is a divine feminine aspect. If you maybe want to
Right.
tell about this also a little more, because I remember you said some amazing things when I was watching.
Yes, I do agree with the whole idea of the patriarchy. Like we said in the very beginning, there were certain things that were obviously, you know, altered in history and so
Hmm.
on and so forth.
Exactly.
And yeah. And what's interesting is that there is this interesting book called the Kabbalistic Teachings of the Female Prophets,
Hmm.
and it's the seven holy women of ancient Israel. And holy doesn't mean like in Christianity where it's like you're better than someone or like pious or all of that stuff. It actually just means a complete circuit of energy within the tree of life reality.
Hmm.
And you know the tree of life is like 10 dimensions that connect to the
Hmm.
creator,
Exactly.
and this light comes down through these different dimensions into our physical reality. And you know these vessels of energy are also within our soul, very similar to the seven chakras, because we
Yeah,
only
it's
deal with the major seven, right?
exactly. Yeah, it's
So
very, very similar with the chakras too. Yeah, exactly.
right. And so, what's interesting is that the left side of the tree of life is feminine, the right side of the tree of life is masculine, and then the middle pillar is actually the central column.
Central column, exactly. Yes,
And
correct.
so, in order for life to be complete and holy, you actually need to actually be using all three columns. If we're only using feminine, it's dangerous. If we're only using masculine, it's
Mm-hmm.
extremely dangerous.
Extremely dangerous.
And
Yeah.
so we want to like connect to all three. And
Hmm.
so the reason why I bring that up is because the women who were pretty much the Kabbalists and the mystics and the queens and all of that stuff, they used all three, right?
Hmm.
And so what's cool about that is that I think like Sarah, she is Abraham's wife,
Hmm.
and it's, you know, kind of crazy because, you know, they're half siblings at the same time, you know, like
That's like very
royalty.
complicated there too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, she's the queen,
Hmm.
basically. And then you have, you know, people like Deborah. You know, she was an ancient judge in Israel. And literally, she made all like the court cases, laws, all that sort of stuff. She went into battle. There's even somebody named Judith. I don't know what her name is in Hebrew. But the interesting thing about Judith is there's ancient paintings like in Rome and in other places where Jews lived. And even the Haggadah, like it's weird because I think it's like the Passover. You know, there's a book that we all follow. And so, like, I want to say there was one that existed like 500 years ago, and I saw it like in a museum or whatever. And it actually shows you in the book a naked woman with her boobs out and everything. And
Hmm.
these are what religious people were using, you know, at their Passover table. And it was like Picasso. We had no issue with Picasso, you know.
Interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
By the way,
You
we
know.
are gonna get timed out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Okay,
yeah, so
sorry.
let's just start a different live. I guess like what? Let's
Start a
cover a
different
little
live.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
What should we cover else? Maybe even in the Genesis, because of course they like to talk a lot about how she was the first wife, but then you know all of that stuff happened. But many people don't even know how Adam and Eve were actually right back to back
Oh
created, and
yeah,
there was all that. So many people
yeah.
have no idea about that either. So there's a few more things I think we
Yeah.
we gotta talk about.
Talk
And also
about,
I would like
yeah.
to think what's her agenda, because you just now
Yeah.
tapped into this very interesting concept how even though just masculine is bad, but just feminine is also not no bueno,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
start a
yeah.
different life. Same
Okay,
thing.
cool. All
Okay,
right.
cool.